Hello everyone. In this video, I'll walk you guys through what a data store is, when to use data stores in CPI, and the different types of operations that can be performed on a data store in CPI. We'll have a theory first, followed by a demo at the end of the video. So what is a data store? It is just a temporary storage area in CPI tenant. It shares the entire tenant database with other storage components like message store, variables, message processing logs, partner directory, and JMS queues. In this video, we will stick to what a data store is capable of, and in the future video, advanced sections, we will see what message stores, MPLs, partner directory, and JMS queues are capable of. What are the types of data stores? We have global and local. Local data stores are restricted to the iFlows they are created in, while global data stores can be used by different iFlows in a tenant. What kind of data can be stored in a data store? A data store usually stores entire messages. When do we use data stores? Data stores can be used for different scenarios. Most common scenarios are these three. Store and pickup scenario, where an integration flow will store the message directly to a global data store, and another integration flow will poll and get the messages that are stored in the global data store. Another usual one is asynchronous decoupling, where an integration flow stores a message while another integration flow gets the message and sends it to the receiver, thereby decoupling the sender completely from the receiver system. The third scenario is similar to the second one, except the first integration flow will actually try sending the data to the receiver, but if there is some error, then details will be stored in the data store so that another iFlow at a later point in time can access the data and try resending the message to the receiver. So you can access the data store via the monitoring area. You can go into the monitoring area of CPI. And there is a manage store section. You will find a tile named data stores. So when you click on the tile and go in, this is how the data store looks like. So you can have a data store name, and within the data store you can have multiple messages. Data store is stored with different values to them, like the ID, message ID, status, viewed, created it, and retain. And you will soon get into the details about this. So what are the operations that you can perform from CPI on a data store? Let's say you have a data store and an iFlow. The first operation you can do is write data to it. That is, you can write more than one message to a data store from an iFlow. Next, you can select more than one message from the bundle of messages that is already available in the data store and send it to an iFlow for further processing. The third operation you can perform is get particular messages using the reference ID from the data store to the iFlow for further message processing. And finally, you have the option to delete messages individually or as a whole. So these are the four operations that are currently available to be performed on a data store.
How to write data into the data store? To our basic iFlow setup, I have added a content modifier. To know more about content modifier, check out this video. In our content modifier, I have added a dummy header, and in the exchange property, I have brought in a number range that I created before. To know more about number range, check out this video. And in our message body, I want hello Mr. string to be populated in front of the payload that comes inside the iFlow. Now let's add a write step. In processing, let's give the data store a name. Let's keep it simple, dummies. And we have two options, global and integration flow. We'll stick to the integration flow. Entry ID, I'll bring in the number range by typing the expression. We will leave these default values as they are. Checking this encrypted stored message checkbox will encrypt our incoming payload in the database level. Let's save and deploy. Now we have to trigger this iFlow from the sender system, which is Postman in our case. Let's send the message Tom. As you can see, the response we get from CPI is hello Mr. Tom. So iFlow seems to be working fine. Now let's jump into the data store. You can see we have a data store called dummies created with one value, and the entry ID is 1 because this is the initial number range value. Let's bring in another name, Tim. Hello Mr. Tim. You can refresh the data store. You can see right now we have two IDs. The first one has the value hello Tom, hello Mr. Tom, and the second one has the value hello Mr. Tim. How do we check these values? Let's click on one of those entries and download the value. You can see a zip file is created. Open the zip file, right click and view. You can see the payload hello Mr. Tom in the body. Now let's include the header that we have created in the content modifier section and trigger this with a different name, Bob. Hello Mr. Bob, and refreshing here will give you number 3. Let's download this. Okay, the header value is not here. You have to save and deploy the iFlow. Let's re-trigger this. You can see the header value is here, and the header value is blah 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 that we maintained in the content modifier. Now let's check this box and see how things are overwritten. Save, deploy, yes. We have 4 IDs in here, so the next one should probably overwrite among one of these IDs. Let's give Marcy. Unfortunately, no. A separate value is created. It is not being overwritten. The reason is, as long as the entry ID is unique, you cannot overwrite the existing message. Let's remove this and say we give a constant value in here. You can bring in constant values even using expressions, but for now we will just maintain a constant value. And you can see a separate value is created with payload hello Mr. Fanta. Let's trigger this again. You can see no new entry is being created, and the payload value is now updated to hello Mr. Buntu instead of hello Mr. Fanta. And that's how we make use of the write data store operation in an iFlow. How to get data from the data store? To our current content modifier in the exchange property, let's add an extra property. In this property, we will assign the incoming payload value to a property name payload. Now let's bring in the get step processing. We need to get messages from the data store named dummies, and the entry ID is going to be whatever comes in the payload. save, deploy. Now you can see the entry ID 6 has value hello Mr. Bantu. I need to retrieve this value using get. I'll go to Postman and enter the entry ID value here 6 and send. This will fetch the entry value from the data store into Postman. Hello Mr. Bantu. How to select data from the data store? In order for the select operation step to work properly, the data it pulls out of the data store should always begin with this open tag. And this is a good example of data that the select operation can successfully pull out of the data store. If the data in the data store looks something like this, there is a good chance we'll be faced with this error, which is unexpected character. So let's go ahead and create a new data store and populate it with values that look more like this. First we'll go into our content modifier in the message body. Let's add open and close tags to our original content. In the right step, let's create a new data store name, dummies1, save and deploy. Send this message. So you get the response inside close tags. Let's jump here. See, there is a data store created with name dummies1 and the value in it is Mr. Dani inside open and close tags. Let's send a couple more names. Mark, Mr. Mark, Raja, good, Rajesh. Alright, let's come here and refresh it. So we have a couple more messages in the data store. Let's add the select step. Connected directly to the select step. Save. Provide the data store name. And you need to bring two messages. Save and deploy. You can give any value in here and send. You can see it has fetched two values, Mr. Dani and Mr. Mark. All these messages still remain in the data store. Now let's say we want these messages deleted as soon as they are sent to the receiver system or the sender system. We can check this box, save and deploy, and trigger this once more. You can see that the same messages are brought here, but in here the messages will be deleted. That's how you use the select operation in the iFlow to retrieve data from the data store. How to delete individual entries from a data store and how to delete an entire data store. Let's go ahead and delete this message entry from the data store. So in our content modifier, let's configure the message body. Our exchange property looks like this. Let's add the delete step. Let's give the data store name and the entry ID from our payload. That is now in the Exchange properties. Save, deploy. From Postman, let's mention the entry ID 10 that we need deleted and send. We get the response, entry 10 is deleted. Let's go into the data store and refresh. As you can see, this is how you delete a data store entry from within the iFlow. Let's say you want this data store entry deleted right from this web UI. You can select this entry and click on the delete button. Yes, and it's deleted. Now to delete an entire data store, not just single entries. If you want to delete an entire data store, click on the data store and to the right you have a delete option. Click delete, yes, and there you go. The entire data store is deleted.